Welcome to the show. Today's interview is with um, for a Kickstarter. It's launching this week. It's with P. Lopez, and the book is CyberPink. Didn't have a chance to do video on my end because of some technical difficulties, but we still got the interview done. So hope you guys enjoy, and you should definitely check out the Kickstarter when it launches on March 4th. All right, I am here today with PA Lopez, who is getting ready to start a Kickstarter for CyberPink. I'll let you tell us, but first off, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Pablo. I grew up in New Orleans, and then I went to Los Angeles, where I was playing music out there, and then I moved to New York, and now I live in Paris. So I've been here. This is about a year. So I'm just moving around a lot, and yeah. And so Cyberpink is the project I'm working on right now. It's a graphic novel I've been working on for 4 years since the pandemic. It started during the pandemic. I had a lot of time on my hands, as many of us did, at home. And so I did a novel about in 2018, a science fiction novel, and I decided I wanted to do another one. And I started a TV pilot actually called CyberPink. And so I created the TV pilot, and then um, and then I shopped the TV pilot around. Then I made a novel or a novel about like out of it, like a I don't know, like a 300-page traditional novel. And then when I moved to Paris, I was kind of lonely. I didn't really know anybody out here, and it occurred to me I should take this fantastic artist that I've been working with to do concept art, um, to do a full graphic novel with him. So we started about a year ago, and now I've got about 80, 90 pages of it, and so I'm doing a Kickstarter to help support it and get the word out there, and hopefully get some people interested in it. And it launches in just a few days on March 4th, which is my dog's birthday, and the day after my birthday.
Oh, well, happy birthday to you! Early happy birthday to you, both of you.
Thank you, thank you.
So, before we get into talking about more about the book, tell me about your experience as a comic book reader and as a creator.
Well, when I was a kid, I used to read a lot of comic books and watch a lot of Saturday morning cartoons. I was one of those kids who woke up really early to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and I loved. I really missed that vibe. I think in a lot of ways, I like the fact that they were very positive and upbeat, and they always and you really believed in the characters. And at the end of the show, you felt like you wanted to keep hanging out sometimes with the characters because they were fun. It's like who wouldn't want to hang out with the Scooby Gang? It would be such a great time. So that's the kind of thing that I really wanted to do, especially in the pandemic and a lot of negativity that was happening. It's still happening, but certainly that was sort of the beginning of some of the negativity really mounting, I think. Um, and so I really wanted something that made me feel happy to be, a world that was happy for me to be in. Um, and I'm a big fan of Star Trek. Like I'm a huge fan of the idea that the future will be better than the present. Though there could be some bumpy roads, like in Star Trek, there's like nuclear war and stuff, and then eventually they get to a place where it's kind of like a utopia, and all their problems are coming from other places, outside of the Federation. And so I believe that we will come to something like that. The technology will eventually be a positive thing, even though there are bound to be some incredible hiccups along the way. So for me, I wanted to create something that was positive and fun, and the characters were funny, and they were three-dimensional, and it was a positive place. But there's still problems. There's still things that crop up in the future, and in this case, one of them is robot prejudice. Comes up, and that's something they have to deal with. But it's not really about a message so much like that, even though that does exist in it. It's really about the characters and the things they go through, and the things they have to learn, and the way they have to come together to solve problems, and just they're funny. They're funny, interesting characters who are fun to hang out with.
So, do you remember maybe the first comic book that you picked up or read, or the one that kind of
I
grasped
like this.
your?
I liked Archie comics. I liked a lot of stuff. I liked Spider-Man. I liked Archie comics. I liked. I was a big fan of Daffy Duck. I thought Daffy Duck was the shit. When I was a kid, because he was always causing trouble with everybody, and he was just kind of a pain in the butt, but he was funny. I liked a whole bunch of comics when I was a kid. I liked a lot of the X-Men comics, um, and so those were some of the basic comics that I'd read when I was growing up.
So let's talk about Cyberpink right now. You've mentioned kind of like the broad you know, idea of it. What were the what inspirations, kind of made you want to get this out onto the page?
Well, I like things like Guardians of the Galaxy. I like things like Friends. I like Star Wars. I like Harry Potter. I like a lot of stuff there, though Guardians of the Galaxy is more R-rated. But I like a lot of stuff where it feels like you really like the characters a lot, and that's one of the main things that I was interested in was characters. Um, and so I had character backstories. I wrote character backstories for each of the characters. One thing I noticed from reading a lot of Marvel when I was a kid that the characters always have some sort of major trauma in their background. Something that happened to them, whether it's Peter Parker unable to save Ben, or maybe he didn't do the thing that could have saved Ben. But if you go into all of them, almost all of them have some pivotal thing that happened to them that drives them as a character. And so that's what I wanted to have for the girls. So I did character studies for each one, and I decided, who are these people? Where do they come from? What kind of conflicts do they have? What were their childhoods like? What kind of things happened to make them the people they are? What are they still trying to get past? What are they still processing? And so each of them has a different backstory that has somebody died, or a divorce, or they're alienated in some way from the people around them. And so that's kind of how I got to know the characters. And so for a while, I spent a while just when I was working on the pilot and working on the book, just kind of getting to know them. How do they react in certain scenarios, and who says what when? Who pushes back to who doesn't? Who won't push back to who? Why won't they push back to them? Does it cause a resentment? The fact that they're not pushing back to them, is that going to have to come up later? And those are all things that happen, in the graphic novel. At some point they have clashes, and they have to get past the clashes. The two in particular, Maya and Elle, have a big clash because Maya's a goody goody who got kicked out of high school for something that's yet to be revealed. It's in the plot and written already. And then so she was a valedictorian who blew her chances, and so she always wants to follow the rules. Her experience has been that if I break the rules, I get in trouble. And Elle, on the other hand, is somebody who likes to rebel against everything. She likes to push things forward, doesn't believe in authority. So those two are always clashing. Elle's always trying to push it forward and let's just do this. Don't worry about what they say. We're going to do it anyway. And Maya's like, no, we have to follow the rules. That's how you get into trouble. So things like that. And then there's Elle and her sister Stacyÿ, who have another kind of relationship. So when you get to know the characters that well, then the dynamics between them sort of feel natural. And that was one of the ways that I really prepared for it. And that's one of the things that I loved about doing it, was really getting to know these people, and also doing something that was all ages, like Harry Potter or Star Wars. I mean, I love Rick and Morty, for example, but Rick and Morty's not all ages. But I think it's possible. I think that people forget, or maybe they don't forget so much as I wanted to take up the challenge of how can you do something that's sort of groundbreaking, that's sort of fun, it's sort of a little radical, and yet it is basically something anybody could pick up. You could read it to your kids. You could enjoy it yourself. If you're 35 or 55, you could enjoy it. If you're 12, you can enjoy it. You can bring your 8-year-old. Maybe they won't understand everything, but they can enjoy it. So that was something that I really was inspired to do, was to create something for everybody, that doesn't talk down to anybody, but lets us all experience kind of human emotions that we all have to deal with.
And, tell me about who's joining you on the project for the rest of your team, the artist and colorist and letter.
Yes, I do the letters, but my artist is this guy Samuel Bermudez, is a really amazing artist. He's doing all the coloring. He's doing the drawing. He's creating basically all of the artwork. He's a really amazing talent, I think. He's not somebody who's done a lot of major or big projects in the past, but he's super super good, and I believe in him very strongly. And so we started working together, and he just has really exceeded all of my expectations. He's a kind of guy who's got a great imagination. So, for example, this picture behind me, which you really can't see very well, this is Aspen Colby, who is like this is the only racy picture we have. This is Aspen Colby, and she's the enemy of the CyberPink girls. And so she's on this sofa, and she's kind of like a mad genius. And if you look more closely, which you can't see here, they actually have the names of the girls, and that's Maya, that's Elle, and they're kind of like these dumpy looking mannequins, and she's using them for target practice with these drones. So this is one of the bonus pictures. We have a high res picture of this. It's a bonus picture. And I said, make her where she lives look really, she's really rich, to make it really amazing. So she has these lava lamp towers here. And when you really zoom in, you see quite a lot of detail of what's behind her. Her idea of like this burning city, this idea of like what her art would be, is this sort of nightmarish cataclysmic vision. She's got these, like I said, she's got these. If you look closely, she's got like on the mannequin, she's pasted like a crude face of each of the girls with like these snaggle teeth, So I asked him to draw this, and he just brought this to life so beautifully with the colors. I said, even the sofa, I said, make sure she looks really rich. This is expensive looking sofa. And he just really does these amazing detail with stuff. So that's the kind of level that he brings to things. And he really has a way of bringing out what's funny in the dialogue. Like when you look at the panels, he gives these girls these expressions and things that are just really so on point. A lot of the times it's stuff that I hadn't thought of necessarily I was picturing something in my head, and he does something different with the expressions that makes it even funnier. So he's a really gifted artist.
And how did the two of you get connected?
I met him online on a freelancer website. I just was looking for a freelancer about 6 years ago to do some. What happened was I was watching Star Wars, the making of Star Wars. And in the making of Star Wars, George Lucas was talking about how when he wanted to pitch Star Wars, because he'd done American Graffiti, and when he wanted to pitch Star Wars, it was a big hurdle to climb because he'd never done, even though he had a great success with American Graffiti, he'd never done any science fiction before. And he's like, well, how can I pitch this for the huge budget that I need? And he didn't get, probably all the budget he wanted, but he did pretty well with it. And what he did was he hired an artist to create, and he's extremely famous artist whose name is slipping my mind. Everybody who knows Star Wars knows him though. And he created all this incredible concept artwork for Star Wars that really showed the scale of it. This is the first huge science fiction epic that looked realistic with Star Wars, obviously. So he brought this artwork that had the Millennium Falcon with like the characters next to it, these huge, just like landscapes, alien landscapes that dwarf these robotics that you could tell were also huge. And so when he brought that stuff to the producers, he was able to show his vision. So I hired him to do some concept artwork and a couple of other artists to do concept artwork for my traditional novel, because they had some pictures in it and I wanted to make it into a movie. So I wanted to get some really good concept artwork. He was the best one that I found, even though it was more of a graphic novel style, but it was still very good. He really understood. It was very easy to work with. So, when it came time to do this graphic novel, I reached out to him, and I knew he did graphic novels and comics as well. I'd never done one before. So I reached out to him, and he started producing the pages, and I started researching how to do the typography, because there's a whole language of typography I didn't know anything about. Like I never paid that close attention to it. When do you use italics? When do you use bold italics? When do you use the barred I? When do you use the non-barred I? What kind of font should it have? What are the margins? So I had to do all that research for my end, because I'm very particular about everything. And then we started working from there, and he creates the inks and it does the color and everything. And then I put in the text of the bubbles so I can give the emphasis that I want, because I'm very obsessive about, okay, the dialogue, maybe we should change this dialogue here. I don't want to have to go back to him to do that, so I can do it myself. I can change the emphasis around. And so that's the way we work.
Nice. So am I reading the launch page correctly? There's going to be a musical component to this.
Yeah, exactly. So we have songs right now on Spotify and SoundCloud, and for the band, for CyberPink, this fictional band. And I already have some songs on there that I've written and recorded, and I hired some female musicians to play some of the parts where needed. And yeah, I'm gonna keep that going. We're gonna keep doing more songs for the project, and release them. I have more songs I want to do next after the Kickstarter launches. We're gonna continue to do more pages, and we're gonna continue to release more songs.
So how is there any lessons you learned from writing music that you were able to apply to writing the comic, or vice versa, I guess?
Oh, no, not really. They're pretty separate. One thing I've able to do is, I was played music for a long time in a band, so I know a lot about the music. I think everybody knows the cliches of the music industry, so there's probably not anything I'm bringing to it that you wouldn't know from just watching, fan stuff. But just having been in music for a long time, I met a lot of the crazy people you meet, and the crazy rivalries, and it's all this kind of stuff you'd see in Gem and the Holograms. It's nothing, like I said, nothing groundbreaking, the original about the things that I know. But it's something that I think is interesting and fun. It's kind of a nightmare up close, but it's just sort of fun to process it. I think in a harmless way for me, to see these girls, full of hope and excitement for it, and doing it, and not having a lot of the baggage that you have when you actually have to do it, and experiencing for the first time a lot of these, and of course it's in space, which makes it also much more fun in science fiction. Just like Gem and the Holograms is sort of a science fiction element to it. So you have gigs in really cool places like abandoned shipyards and space shipyards, and then you have and people have little cool space cars and all that stuff. So I think that's it was more the music, my experience of music informing what I wanted to write about. And when I thought of CyberPink, the first thing I thought was, oh, it's some girls in space and they're in a band, and I just went from there because I immediately thought that's a great idea. Let's do that. So I started working on that again during the pandemic, and just started obsessively working on CyberPink every day. And that was like 4 years ago.
So is there a particular character that maybe you've kind of latched onto during the writing process, or one that's grown on you?
Well, Ella is they're all main characters, but I read somewhere that the character with the most to learn, which is another way of saying the greatest character arc, is your protagonist. So I'd say of all of them, Elle probably is the main character because she has the most to learn. She tends to mess up the most and create the biggest problems for them, and she's in the best position to solve the problems if she'll make the right choices. And that's kind of what a character arc is all about. It's that the hero with a thousand faces. It's going after the thing you're trying to get and the things you have to learn along the way and the trials you go through, and even though they all have character arcs and things they have to grapple with, arguably in terms of like the plot, she's the one who pushes the plot forward the most. She's the one that got them into the situation, whether because they were banned, they were shamed off the earth essentially because of something they did, and she was the prime mover behind that. And she's the one who keeps messing up and causing more problems for them, but she's also the one who takes the most action, who can get them out of problems. So in that sense, Elle is the main focus of a lot of. At the very end, she's the one who has to fix everything or doom them all. Because she has the deepest lesson to learn about why they ended up there. And then and Stacyÿ is another one. Stacy's her sister, and Stacy's just clowning around all the time and just sort of trying to diffuse the situations that her sister causes. So I think they end up popping to the forefront a lot of the time. But each of the characters has their own character arc, and each of them, I don't think it would work without all of them because they're all kind of integral to the things that happen. The reasons they do what they do. Like even Eva, who probably is the least active character, her mother is she's adopted by a robot, which is an unusual thing. And so a lot of when they have a lot of issues with people being anti-robot, it's very personal for her, and she has to grapple with the fact that she's kind of embarrassed to have a robot mother. So she's not somebody who's going to be out, hey, don't you know you got to be nice to robots? My mom, and she's not that way at all. She's just kind of like, oh God, I don't want to have to deal with this again. So that's also her character arc. That's how can she learn to be proud of where she's from without being, and not and still be thick skinned, still be tough, but address it without being embarrassed by being that weird girl who's adopted by a robot. So each of them, none of them are very simple. All of them have something like that that's sort of driving them. Like I was saying with the Marvel characters, there's always something driving them to try to figure out how to get over a psychological block they have.
So, what will you be offering um, people to, who want to support your project?
Well, we have the digital bundle. That's like 76 pages. That's issues 1 and 2 are done. And so they're both going to be in there. And then we're also going to have, I can't remember if issues 3 is done or not. I don't think it's quite done yet. Issues 1 and 2, we have the bonus, the Aspen Colby picture you see behind me. And then you have 3 MP3s, an extra scene with Infiniti and her brother, shows her brother died. And so there's a scene where she's talking to her brother while he's still alive, which forms part of the background of her character. And then we also have I think some covers and some sketches as well. And that's going to be the first 48 hours. That should be $15. After that, I believe it goes to $30 after the first 48 hours. So it's a really low rate to get everything digital. And then of course you can add the print onto that as well. And we have T-shirts and stuff like that as well if people want them.
So, this is your first experience running a Kickstarter, am I correct?
This is my first time doing a Kickstarter.
uh,
Yeah.
any um, any jitters or anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, I'm kind of being fatalistic about it at this point. I mean, it was extremely expensive because I had to do a lot of ads. I went through some guru told me to get a bunch of Facebook ads, and it cost a fortune. These Facebook ads, like a real fortune, and they haven't produced very well. So I don't know if it was just bad advice but we'll see. I mean, at this point, I'm just taking it as a loss. Like I just want to get. It's a very modest goal. I'm asking for $1,500, which is far less than I've spent promoting this already. Shockingly less. So if I make the $1,500 goal, that's enough to print it and get some copies to people, hopefully make some people happy, and get some people to follow the next thing. I'm doing another graphic novel with Sam called Vox Wormhole, Robot Detective. Vox Wormhole actually appears as Stacy's favorite program in CyberPink. So I decided to do a separate Vox Wormhole, which is more like it's different. It's more like it's a free floating, more like Adventure Time kind of thing, I guess. Maybe with a little bit of Aqua Teen Hunger Force in there. It's just very different. But I decided, since Stacyỹ likes these shows so much, she's always referencing, what would Vox Wormhole do in this situation? I've been thinking for a long time about doing a Vox Wormhole comic. And so I didn't like my pilot very much. So I've been working about 2 or 3 years on this pilot for Vox Wormhole. And I didn't like it that much. It just was kind of film noir, and it was a little boring. I just couldn't. It was too tropey. It was just too much of the same tropes, the film noir tropes. I just couldn't get into it. So I decided about a week or two ago, like, I'm just tearing this all down. I spent like 3 days just trying to I was like, we're going to rework every combination possible of Vox Wormhole. And I went through everyone, and I was like, it's still boring. I was like, you got to dump it. You got to dump it and start over.
Mhm.
So I decided Vox Wormhole can be anything, because it's her favorite TV show. It doesn't have to be what I thought it was going to be before. So now it's more of he solves these really metaphysical mysteries. I'm having a lot more fun with the pilot. So next, I want to do obviously more CyberPink issues. Hopefully, I'll have a fan base. Is what I'm trying to say. Hopefully, I'll have enough of a fan base after the Kickstarter, at least. Even if it's like 50 people, that would be great. And then get the next issues to them, and then start pitching the Vox Wormhole. And I'm just going to keep going. I mean, this is what I'm really having fun with it. It's really what I want to do. So I'm not going to worry too much about. I mean, I was getting worried about the Kickstarter and getting kind of upset, and I think it's probably everybody does, like, And I was like, you know what, just fuck it. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't, really doesn't. Like, if I could raise $1,500, it's enough to send off issues to people, and then just do the next one. And I'm just going to keep creating stuff. And that's it.
Yeah. So, what comic writers, if any, kind of inspire you, or you like to, um, I don't want to say imitate, maybe emulate is maybe the
Well,
right,
like I like
more correct word.
I like Moebius a lot. I'm gonna say his name, Moebius.
Mobius, Moib, yeah.
Jean Giraud. Jean Giraud. I like that stuff a lot. And I also like Brian K. Vaughan. So so and then I like whoever's doing the Archie comics still. I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but that's what I liked when I was a kid. Um, so those are some of the things that I like myself. But I would say my knowledge of graphic novels these days is not really extensive. What I really want to do was a TV show, but then it was so difficult to get a TV show done, because it's just a lot. It's a big process. You have to have a producer, you have to have a budget, you have to have your studio backers, you have to have notes, you have all this different stuff. And what had occurred to me was that a graphic novel is essentially a movie. Like, that's what it is. You see it. The only thing you don't do is hear it. And it doesn't move at the same frame rate, as a cartoon. But it's basically the same thing. You could show somebody everything that's in your mind in a graphic novel. And I really could see. I said, this is why this is such a huge art form, because you sit there and you're in it. You're in it just like a movie. So I said, well, why not just get Sam and just do it? We don't have to do all this budget and get all this stuff together. If my only goal is to just have something tangible for something that's in my head that I love. I talked to somebody the other day. I ran into somebody. We were talking about success. And she said, it's a corny thing. She said, but she was really right. She said, and if you do what's in your heart, you never go wrong. And she was right. And that really hit me. And I've heard that same expression, a million times, a million different ways, art for art's sake, a million times. But she really nailed it. She said, if you do what's in your heart, you can't go wrong, because it doesn't fucking matter if anybody likes it. You really have to get into that
Mhm.
mindset. I mean, it's so difficult. You really have to be dedicated to the idea that fuck it, that this is what I want to do. And so that's how I feel about it. When I realized I could put it in a graphic novel, I was like, I could make a record of everything that I'm thinking and feeling. If nobody likes it, that sucks. But at the same time, what sucks worse is having it just constantly be some script somewhere in some drawer, and nobody ever sees it. I'd like to at least be able to show it to people, even if it's my kids one day. Um, you know, this is what I was picturing. These are the characters. This is what they look like. This is what they said. This is what happened. And then they say, "Oh, thanks, Dad," and they put it in a drawer. But the point is, I've got it. So, so that's what I like about the graphic novel format. It's an incredible opportunity to get a complete vision down. The only thing missing is the audio, and that's not that important. You hear it in your head, and I'm creating the songs myself, and even that's not a major part of it. It's about the characters and the things that happen. So it's very exciting. When I first started, it was incredibly exciting to see these things that I'd only been seeing about 3 years in my head in the book, to see them come to life with Sam's vision as well. Obviously, was an incredibly satisfying process.
So, as we kind of wrap up here, is there anything else about the Kickstarter or the project that you wanted to mention that we, didn't specifically cover?
No, it's CyberPink. Kickstarter is on Kickstarter called CyberPink. There's also on the website cyberpink.co/Kickstarter. If people can get sign up for 50% off, they get notified the first 48 hours of the Kickstarter, so they can save 50%. And they get other emails, not too many. We don't do tons of emails. But yeah, cyberpink.co/Kickstarter, where you can find out all about it. And then you can go to Kickstarter itself and look for CyberPink, and you'll find it. And that's it.
And, and am I correct that there's a like a sampler on Global Comics or something?
Yeah, and on Global Comics, there's also, I think it's just, you just look for CyberPink on there, you'll find an exact match on Global Comics, and you can read a sample there, and then it'll actually direct you to a page, to a secret page, super secret. It's public, but it's a secret public page mentioned publicly in Global Comics, but it's secret, and you can enter your email there, and you get the first 30 pages for free. And at $100 a page, that's a lot of money. If it was valued, if you found a way to value it at $100 a page, you'd be saving $3,000. So $300, $300. You're saving $300 if you appraise it. If you appraise it at $30 a page. No, that's not even right. 30 pages at at $10 a page. You save a lot of money. If
I
you
don't know.
imagine it's worth a lot, you save a lot of money. That's what I'm trying to say.
We don't do math here, so
Just say it's a lot, like $1 million, worth $1
yeah.
million, even though it's free. That's what's exciting
And,
about it.
and besides the links that you already gave out, are you on social media?
Yeah, CyberPink is also on CyberPink. It's like our social media handle is at CyberPink Music. So Instagram at CyberPink Music, Facebook at CyberPink Music, X.com, which I'm never ever on. I wasn't on before. I'm definitely not on now. CyberPink Music, but it is there. And I think we're also on
Mm-hmm.
Threads as CyberPink Threads or Blue Sky or maybe all of them as CyberPink Music. I don't remember. I try to get them whenever I can. I try to get it. TikTok. We don't do anything on TikTok. There's nothing on there, but it's there at CyberPink Music.
Alrighty. Well,
We're on the
I want
TikTok.
to wish you the tickety talk.
We're on the Tickety Talks.
Well, I
Is
want
that
to
right? Is that what they
wish
say?
you luck.
Is that what they say?
I don't know. I'm not young and hip, so
Tickety Talks.
so it launches on March 4th, and
Yeah, my dog's birthday.
yeah, I want to wish you the best of luck as the campaign, kicks off and goes out goes through the beginning of April, if I'm correct.
Yep, that's it. It's gonna be a wonderful wild ride.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to follow your wild
Thank
ride
you,
over
Chad.
on
Appreciate it.
Comic Watch, and
We just need
help you
$1,000 a
help.
day.
All
I
right.
don't even
Well,
know for what.
you know,
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it.
whenever you have another, if you want to, I'd love to chat with you after the campaign is over and you're, ready to do your next project, and
Very
we'll
kind. Thank you.
what kind of debrief on this and see what else we'll see what you have in the pipeline.
Box wormhole. Yeah. Thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate it so much.
All right. Well, thanks and have a good day.
You have a good week. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Yeah.